Good afternoon. Well, welcome to my sit and talk. I'm sitting and talking because I'm at Johns Hopkins, and Holly yesterday took a test and it was clear that she had COVID, and she had all the symptoms. She was as weak as I've ever seen her, even when we used to visit Johns Hopkins. And she had a cough and temperature and everything else. So we're here today for infusions. Now, I took a test, and as yet, I don't have COVID. I can't say if it's my immune system or all the injections I took. The reason it doesn't work for Holly is because she's suppressed because of her double lung transfer, and she takes medication to suppress her immunosystem, and that leaves her prey to COVID, among other things. She takes these other drugs to avoid infection and rejection. So you see the tantalizing dilemma for anybody who gets a transplant. So right now she's getting her infusion, and I am at this charming outdoor, seated place. A moment ago there was a father and a daughter running little mobile cars around. And it does underscore one thing about medical challenges, and that is that attitude matters. So today, knock on wood, and I'm an optimist and so forth, Holly is more spirited, giving directions on how to drive here, and we're double masking, both of us, and hoping that I can remain active to do what she can't do because of her COVID for, I think, 14 days, or I guess that's the outside of it. But she was stronger today, and her voice was stronger, and I'm hopeful. But the story of the swan, and you have to look up someplace else for that. The thing that's interesting in the news is that apparently Nikki Haley studied the Civil War under DeSantis's tutelage, because somehow or other she overlooked to mention slavery. I mean, even as an element of the discussion, since from our early days, from the Declaration of Independence to the Constitution, to all the compromises we had, figuring that by compromise we could suffer that slavery stain on our existence and continue to be a union. Now Calhoun and others made that difficult, and that any person who's 12 doesn't have some vague idea what this is about doesn't say very well for them being a public servant or elected as president of the United States. If you don't even know the problem, how do you address it? And in the last several years with Trump at the helm, this has been a very serious question. How do we deal with these kinds of things? So that's one. It's very interesting, and I know all of you, from at least the sampling of responses I get, are concerned and have serious problems with stress. And the stress is built upon our daily newspaper and information and the practices that are getting a hold in America that contradict the promise of America, going back to, again, our origins when being equal and equal under the law, and everybody having an opportunity, and a resistance to discrimination, and how we have worked to perfect, even though it remained and is certainly now imperfect, but we had a goal and a standard, and that's been challenged. And the studies will not surprise you that the stress in an unequal society affects our health, and so we have to pay attention to that. And the thing about it is that we get sicker because of the stress. So that's something we have to think about. And I'm not just saying it because I'm here. Those of you who've been engaging in this correspondence with me by, YouTube and Twitter, and when I have appearances on different shows, we all know that what we're talking about is we want a better America, and we want America that is working toward everyone. And there are ways to do that. And it's not the SWAT teams. That is both Republicans and Democrats calling out people with phony, bogus crime stories to get police to somebody's house when nothing is happening there at all. And wouldn't you know, the person who draws attention to it is Congresswoman Green, who excels all others in unreliable, irresponsible statements of matters that are not true and are terribly misleading, and with policies that would take us back to the Stone Age and to slavery. This plantation notion of having a dictator run our government. There have been, according to police officials, 20,000 of these SWAT events. And it's called SWAT, obviously, you connect it with the police because you're basically having a police officer harass based on a false claim about what's happening at a Republican or Democratic home. If there's an illustration of what the dichotomy is that we're concerned about regularizing, it is in Gaza. I can't imagine a better place to make this point. And I'm not taking sides or anything, but here is the point. The beauty of a life in Gaza before the war and the death, the destruction that followed. And there's a photographer who has made exactly this contrast. And how on, say, an LSAT test or just common sense as a human, how would you choose between those two? Would you want a happy community, or would you want one suffering, clinging onto life by their fingernails, watching the people they care about compromised or killed or dead, or children not being born and women being abused? How can that be something that the world wants? And there are reports in the papers today about, will the war in Ukraine go into Lebanon? And the Hezbollah has been, from shortly after the first attack, been kind of supporting Hamas in defending Gaza by having incidents in northern Palestine on the border of, and I suppose from, in Lebanon, the Hezbollah. So this is no way to work. Trump returning to the difference between what is good and what is bad. Trump is asking the judge in the District of Columbia, Judge Chutkan, to allow in evidence that the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, says is false and untrue, and says that shouldn't be allowed to be considered by the jury. Couldn't agree more. And I've been in that position on the other side, which is that the government wants to do that. And it seems to me what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and that if Trump wants to make a case out in the public, that's one thing. If he can do it without threatening everybody in tarnation, then okay. Apparently that's okay with the judges, not me, but that's what they do, and maybe that's why I'm not a judge. But you shouldn't be presenting to a jury something that doesn't have some basic foundation in truth. And so that's a problem here. So I'm glad to talk to you from where I am, and I hope you are enjoying the season. And I'll keep you posted on how Holly is doing. I'm very encouraged by how she is today. But I know sometimes we have these fits and starts, and with any luck, maybe I won't get infected. All the best. Bye-bye.